And so she was like, hey, Pride, Drill Sergeant Jackson behind her. Yeah, Pride, hey, y'all, Pride, we gonna do a contraband. We gonna do they were saying that they were gonna do an amnesty. You were gonna be given amnesty.
Plans are to prosper you, plans not to harm you, plans to give you hope in the future. Trust in the Lord and He will guide you.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl Wendy, and I'm back with another video. So in this video today, I'm gonna be telling you about my experience in basic training. It's gonna be, yeah. So if you're new to my channel, please go ahead and consider subscribing to my channel. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but that's if you want to. But hey, you're already here. You know what I'm saying? Disclaimer, you never know what you're gonna get. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not gonna be confined to a niche. I'm gonna put out whatever I want to put out. I'm not saying it like I'm gonna do what I want to do. I mean, but essentially I'm gonna do what I want to do. You know what I'm saying? Cause yeah, it's kind of how I am in life. Anyway, A1 since day one, I sure do appreciate you. Know what I'm saying? I'm talking about it already, man. And so, I left home, I want to say, June 29th or 30th, I left home June 29th to go to, Shreveport, Louisiana, the Louisiana MEPS. So, I get to the MEP station or whatever, and don't really remember what happened there. All I know is that I was put up in a hotel room, and the next day, I was gonna fly out to go to Fort Jackson. So at this time, I didn't know anything about basic training. I ain't asked nobody nothing. So this is why. So at the time, 2001, my mom had already been in the Army for 5 years. You know what I'm saying? So basically she was a dinosaur, okay? And then Larry D, he went in the 80s. So he definitely was a fossil. You know what I'm saying? And his carbon footprint was so high. So what am I going to ask them? You know what I'm saying? Larry D, he's a fossil. You know what I'm saying? You know when they go look for dinosaurs, you know what I'm saying? And they got to use a brush to brush off the bones and stuff. That's what I was going to have to do for Larry D. I was going to have to brush off his brain in order to find out how his basic training experience was. And I couldn't, even if I wanted to ask him, his experience was totally different because he had already been through the first Gulf War. You know what I'm saying? So no. Then my mom, she had went in 96. You know what I'm saying? And so I already knew that asking her was not going to be beneficial. You know what I'm saying? Because number one, she wasn't going to remember. Okay. And then number two, I knew that she was in Oklahoma. So she was in Oklahoma. She wasn't going where I was going anyway. Yeah. So, yeah, she was at Fort Sill. Yeah, she was at Fort Sill. So I just went in blind. You know what I'm saying? Like, basically what I was told, keep your head down and your mouth shut. I didn't do either of those. I didn't. You know what I'm saying? I didn't keep my mouth shut, and I didn't keep my head down. So the next day I'm flying out on the 30th, but I do remember that it was a late flight. But before we leave, I'm linked up with it's a guy. And we weren't linked up, but we were leaving. We were both leaving MEPS at the same time. So we both went on the same orders. We were leaving MEPS at the same time, and we were both going to Fort Jackson. It was two other people with us, according to the documents that I have. But he and I, like, we clicked so well. It was like an instant chemistry, instant connection. For that time, he was one of the coolest people I had ever met. And so his name was He was a specialist. Okay, Specialist McDowell. And he was cool in a mug. And so, and turns out that we were also in the same platoon as well. Well, we were in the same company, but he was in a different platoon because his name was a J, mine was a C. And so, so then, we go on or whatever. We're at Fort Jackson. So we're in this, for the females, the males too, but we're in this huge bay. Okay, we're in this super big old bay, and y'all, those old war movies where they have those big old bays and stuff like that. We were essentially in one of those. We had bunk beds. And so one of the first people that I met, shout out to all the Baileys that I have ever met, because I'm very fond of Baileys. Okay. The Lord has always provided me a Bailey. Okay. And so one of the first people that I met was a girl named Bailey. And the reason why I remember her was because her hair was like a wine color. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And she was cool in a mug. And then it was another Bailey. He was a sergeant first class, but he was like special forces. And so he was, he had kind of seen some things. So, and then it was another, at Fort Bragg, I had a Bailey, I have been stationed with 3 Baileys in my life. So the Bailey in basic training. Then it was a sergeant first class Bailey when I went to Fort Bragg, when I was at Fort Bragg the first time. And then Fort Bragg the second time, it was another Bailey. He was, like I said, he was former special forces. So key in on former special forces, okay? And so, so, shout out to all the Baileys. I'm in love. And so, so we get there. So it's, the first, and, it's a lady named Corporal Kelly. She was huge. She was huge. So she comes in the bay and she's like, everybody had to give her, $5 for some type of, like, I want to say it was like for some type of flag, but it was for some type of fundraiser that was supposed to be had. But I didn't have $5 to give her, because if I had $5, I wouldn't be in basic training. Okay. So, she got, but if it was 200 girls, she got at least, like, I would say she had got at least $5 from 200 girls. That's what I'm going to say. And so, come to find out that she took all that money and she pocketed it. And I was like, that is so foul. You lied. You took advantage of them girls. You know what I'm saying? So that was my first introduction in the Army. You know what I'm saying? So then the second is the day that I actually started to in process. And it was such a long procedure. Oh my gosh. It was so... Hurry up and wait is not even the terminology that could be used for day 0 of basic training. So I had to get like 7 shots. They gave me all 7 shots at one time. And so they giving me all these shots and stuff, and not, because we're supposed to stay there for an hour. Man, I felt sick than a mug, because I had to get all kind of stuff. And I'm looking like, why didn't my mama take me and give me them shots? I wouldn't have to get so many. And what shots did I get? I don't know. I just know it was 7 of them bad boys. They did dental. They did, we had to do medical again. And then I remember having to step on this like box that was illuminated, and so basically the box had light in it, and so they were checking to see if you were flat-footed or not. We had to dress down into our panties and bras, so that way they could see if we had tattoos, and if you had tattoos, they documented what tattoos you had, where they had it. Where you had it at. I think they took blood in order to get your blood type. You did your fingerprints in order to have, your fingerprints in the in the military database. What else? Yeah. So then a couple of days later, we went to General Jackson's, and that's like this clothing store. But in the clothing store, it's just strictly, it ain't like you got Nike and stuff like that. No. You got whatever basic training shoes they wanted you to have. You got white socks. So basically they gave us a what's that? We had an Eagle Cash card. So you had $300 on an Eagle Cash card, but little did we know that the $300 was coming out of our check coming up. So like you didn't make no money as a private. Like I'm an E2 and I didn't make hardly nothing because the $300 advance for the general, for the Eagle Cash card came out because we had to buy our own uniforms and stuff like that. And I'm just like, bruh, what? And then I remember we had to go get fitted for our BDUs. We had to get fitted for our PTs. And I came in during a time where the PTs changed. And so that's why I said that my mom was practically, she was a dinosaur because they were phasing out the total gray, the whole gray PT uniform. They were phasing that out. And so that I came in when they had the gray top with that said Army across the back and then the A on the back. And then they had the black shorts or whatnot. So, oh wow, I'm about to scoot back. So then, so we go through, I'm going through basic or whatever. And basic was super duper. It was like a culture shock. And that's how it's supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? So I'm in basic training and, I'm from Texas. So I don't speak a lot of Spanish, but I can understand, some stuff or whatever. I know stuff that I don't know I know. And so, I had two drill sergeants. Well, it was three, but one was a reservist or National Guard, whoever is 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year, National Guard. Anyway, so the National Guard people would come in, once a month because I was there for 8 weeks. So I had Drill Sergeant Hernandez, who was Hispanic, who was from Texas, and then I had Drill Sergeant Jones, was a female, and I don't know where she was from. But all I remember from Drill Sergeant Jones was she always did a whole lot of yelling. And then Drill Sergeant Hernandez, he always did a whole lot of cussing and yelling in Spanish. Cause he used to always yell at this dude named Cardenas, cause Cardenas, he was straight from Puerto Rico. And so all he spoke was Spanish or whatever. So he getting on him and I'm laughing. And then PFC Duncan is like, well, he black, he from Virginia. And I had never, cause I'm from Texas. So I had never traveled Texas and Louisiana, but I had never traveled outside of that. I went to like Atlanta and Florida, but for the most part, I had never been exposed to anybody from the East Coast. So he was my first introduction of somebody from the East Coast, and I was like, I'm not intrigued. If this how they act, no. And so he was like, since you always laughing, how? Wow. He was like, I'm trying to do a accent. He was like, hey, Connor, because you doing all that laughing. I was trying to do a Baltimore accent, I couldn't do it. But anyway, he was like, you doing all that laughing? Tell me what he said. And so I'm like, man, I don't know what he said. But I was like, it's still funny. All up in my stuff. Anyway, so we're going and we're doing, basic training and stuff like that, and your body going through all kind of changes and stuff. So on Sundays, you either you went to church or you stayed to clean up or whatever. We were never left in so you were going to clean somewhere, but it may not have been in your area or whatnot. So basically, you're going to be outside all day. So, summertime, South Carolina, it's super duper hot and it's super duper humid on top of that. So I go to church or whatever. Can't tell you what one sermon was about. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to get about training. Cleaning. So it's so hot that people are pouring water on themselves. Like we're spraying each other with water, we're pouring water on ourselves, so on and so forth. But in the bay that I live, let me back up. So, I was in Echo Company, and I think it was like 160th or something like that. 160 was the battalion. So you had Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, Foxtrot, and Foxtrot. And so in each of those platoons, they had, first platoon, second, each of those companies, they had first platoon, second platoon, third platoon, fourth platoon. So if you do the math, what is that? 6 times 4, that's 24. So, if it's 30 people per, you do the math, okay? Do the math. So it's a lot of people in basic training if it's 24 per, but it was more than that. So I'm in first platoon because my last name starts with a C. So I'm in first platoon and whatnot. And so, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so she was in third platoon. So third platoon come out of their bay. So our bays are, the female bays are, they're joined together. So you got first platoon, then you got first platoon females, then you got third platoon females or whatever. And we're joined together, whatnot. So, a girl comes out of the bay and I was like, LT. I was like, hey, LT. And so she stopped. And so she turned around. She was like, how you know my name? And I was like, I don't. I was like, but you look like you look like an LT. So she had on this is so horrible. She had on her basic training glasses, which they call BCG's, birth control glasses. But you ain't supposed to be having sex in basic training no way. So I don't understand why they call BCG's. Okay? So she, she went on about her business or whatnot. And so, like I said, in the summertime, it's super duper hot and humid in Fort Jackson, South Carolina. You know what I'm saying? So finally we're able to go back into the bay. And in our bay, first platoon's bay, our section of the bay is super duper cold. And so the drill sergeants were saying that they had it so cold in order to fight off, bacteria and stuff like that, because the warmer it is, bacteria gets to, multiply, so on and so forth. People get sick. And so, if there is truth to that, I still haven't looked it up all these years later, but, almost 20 years later, I ain't looked it up, but nobody in our bay was sick like that. But in other bays, they were. So we're in the bay, and I don't know if I passed out. I don't know if I fainted. I don't know if I asked somebody to go get a drill sergeant. At this point, I don't remember what happened, but the drill sergeant comes or whatnot, and then they rush me to the hospital. So as they're taking me out, I'm like, call my mom. Somebody call my mom. Call my mom. Call my mom. How they gonna call my mom when they don't? Number one, they don't know her name. They ain't got her phone number. You know what I'm saying? Like, none of the privates have her information in order to call. You know what I'm saying? Silly. So I believe I stayed in the hospital for like 2 to 3 days, and they were just pumping me full of fluids. I remember being constantly hooked up to the IV. And also, too, like there was something, like I had felt like a weird arrhythmia with my heart. So what they did was they hooked me up with a portable EKG, and anytime I felt stressed, then I was supposed to push the button. So my drill sergeant was yelling at me, the female drill sergeant Jones, she was yelling at me for something. She was always yelling at me for something. So she was like, so I pressed the button, and so she was like, hey Pride, so you gotta press your button. Am I stressing you out, Pride? I'm like, dang, drill sergeant, stop. She liked me, but it was just wasn't no letting up with her. So then something happened, and I was, also too, so we always we took our first PT test or whatever, and in taking our first PT test, of course, people failed it. I'll shout out to Corbett. Yeah, she funny. But, so people failed the first PT test or whatever. And so, people failed because you take a diag when you get there, a diagnostic when you get there, but it's only 1 minute push-ups, 1 minute sit-ups, and a 1 mile run. So people failed that, and if you failed that, then you didn't pass by the time your class was leaving, then you were a holdover. So, a lot of people failed that too, and then people failed the first PT test. So what we ended up doing was basically after almost every dinner chow, we had to go run 2 miles. And I remember specifically one day, like we weren't allowed to get, our class wasn't allowed to get sweets. And so eventually we had spaghetti. And I remember that it daggone, like I felt like I was gonna throw up. But at this time, at this point, we used to it. You know what I'm saying? I can only remember one time where we only had like 7 minutes to eat, and that's because somebody made Drill Sergeant Jones mad. But for the most part, we had got our full time. Maybe it was 10 minutes. But that one time, it was only 7 minutes. So, and then another time, Drill Sergeant Jones, when she was on duty, she would select some people from her platoon, and we would go over there with her, as she pulled staff duty. So basically, that's where you watch over a certain building, and you gotta check the building, every hour on the hour while you on duty. So she picked me, and so she was like, hey, you need your battle buddy. Who you gonna pick? So I picked my bunkmate, and I pointed up because she was on top of me, Campbell S. And so she, because she was quiet, you know what I'm saying? She was cool, but she was quiet. And the reason why I say she was cool was because she would make my bed for me because I didn't know how to do military corners or whatnot. And so she knew because I think her dad or something was in the Army. And so, he showed her all that stuff. And so, so she would make, because you had 2 blankets, 2 of them harsh wool green blankets, like in the old movies. Yeah, we had some of them. So she folded the bottom, and so she was like, hey, just sleep on top of your bed and have the one blanket. And so that's what I would do. And so every morning she would come down and she would fold it for me. And so, we're over there and we're at staff duty. And so for some reason we have cash. So we went to the vending machine. Like, I know I had some Skittles. I got some Snickers. I think she had got some Reese's and some Doritos. And so we're stuffing all this stuff in our cargo pockets. And so, we're going back to the bay. So, we in there, and there with the 3-door chest, you can take your 3-door chest out, and then there's a, spot up under it to where you can put your contraband. And so I don't know what, somebody probably snitched because somebody was always telling on me. I'm talking about always. They were always telling, and they were stealing your drawers. And I'm talking about out of the wash, stealing your drawers. Maybe the dryer. Okay, because you're supposed to have 7 panties, you're supposed to have 7 pair of socks, and like 5 or 7 bras, something like that. So somebody was always stealing your stuff because they didn't have enough, not knowing, not thinking like, hey, let me get with the drill sergeant and be like, hey, I don't have enough. And my name was on my stuff. You know what I'm saying? And they were still taking it. Just nasty, you nasty. So something happened, and so Drill Sergeant Jones was like, it was Drill Sergeant Jones, and it was another black Drill Sergeant Jackson. They were both black female drill sergeants, and so they were both short. Drill Sergeant Jackson wasn't as loud as Drill Sergeant Jones, but Drill Sergeant Jones was loud. So she was like, hey, Pride, hey, Pride. Drill Sergeant Jackson behind her, yeah, Pride, hey, y'all, Pride. We gonna do a contraband. We gonna do a. They were saying that they were gonna do an amnesty. You were gonna be given, and so basically what you had to do was you had to take all your contraband and you had to dump it out. If you didn't dump your contraband out and put it in the middle of the floor, then what was gonna happen was you was gonna get written up. You was gonna get Article 15, and so I want to say like everybody. So we used to go to the range. For what I remember, we went to the range a lot. And so back in the day, in the MREs, Meals Ready to Eat, you had Charms candy. If you don't know what a Charms candy is, go look it up. And I'm talking about like the little square candy. So they had Charms candy. They had M&Ms if you got a good MRE. You had Skittles if you got a good MRE. People were taking the cheese out the MRE, the crackers, the peanut butter, the jelly, whatever you could transport that you weren't able to get in the DFAC, they were taking. So people coming out the woodworks, people that you didn't think would have contraband, they dumping their stuff. But me and my center mind, I was like, oh yeah, I could just leave the stuff under in the thing and won't nobody even know. Wisdom was like, girl, if you don't take that stuff and throw it out before you get in trouble. And so previously, I think from all the PT and all the other stuff that we had to do, I was just super duper tired. And I was on Fire Guard. That's where you just watch your little bae. I was on Fire Guard with a girl named Bonhome. Bonhome was from Florida. She was from Miami, so she say. And so she was, you know, I'm on Fire Guard with her because she's a C, I'm a B, we're close. So she did, so I didn't get up. One looked at get up, nothing. So then it was a drill sergeant. So she told the drill sergeant, and so then it wasn't my drill sergeant, but another drill sergeant came and got me. And so then you know, they asked me what happened. I told them what happened. So then I had to go see the commander. The commander was a butter bar lieutenant, okay? I don't remember her name, but so, you know, she gave me Article 15, 14 days restriction, 14 days extra duty. And so I'm like, restriction? But at this point, I'm like, restriction? We couldn't go nowhere, no way. Where were we gonna go? What? So had that or whatever. She didn't take any pay, but so basically, you know, she was just telling me, like a little bit later on, she was like, you know, basic training is meant to break you down, to build you back up or whatever. But what I do recall was that, like, so say everybody went to bed at like 10, like I would have to, you know, I would go to bed at like midnight. But even in that, like there were many times where I didn't do it, afterwards. And so, you know, that was a blessing in itself because, you know, I would have been one tired little person. So eventually I'm back on Fire Guard with Bonhome, and I was just like, look, and I am on extra duty at this point. So I'm like, look, I'm tired, you know, do you mind if I sleep? So she was like, yeah, go ahead. She didn't bother me. She let me go to sleep. She didn't tell on me or nothing like that. So, now we're getting ready to graduate, right? So we have our you go to the field or whatever, and so we ruck march. So we had been ruck marching. That's what I remember about Drill Sergeant Jackson. So if the temperature was over a certain amount, then what would happen was that they would have to come bring vans to pick us up. So Drill Sergeant Jackson took the thermometer, placed it in cold water to bring the temperature down on the thermometer in order for us to have to walk back. And so that's what happened. So people was passing out from that. And then we still had to go, and we were still out, you know what I'm saying? Like we were still outside. So that's what happened. That's how I ended up, you know, almost dying that day. So we go, and so all those ruck marches led us up to the big ruck march. So I don't even know how far we rucked, but I know at Fort Bragg, we're, you know, back in the day, you were required to do a 20K in under 4 hours. So we go, we do it or whatever, and so they let us sleep. And so then we get up, you know, we're in the field, so on and so forth, blah, 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 for however long we in the field. So then, you know, we begin to, so the week, so Victory Week is where you clean all your gear from being in the field, you know, stuff like that. So it was a guy named Norman and another dude, I don't remember his name, but they wrote our company motto. We would have to go to the gym, and like everybody's in the gym. So like, I want to say like it was every basic training that they had there, and then like I guess some big wigs or whatnot. So we're all in the gym. So you had to do your little company motto. So you know they would call your company to attention. So that whole week, you know, we're practicing over and 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 over. And so our company motto, because we were Echo, and so we were the company across the street, because we were in cubicles or whatnot, not cubicles, portable buildings. And so we would have to go across the street to the main building, and we would have to use the phones. So at this time, I'm in basic, and we don't have cell phones, we don't have stress cards. We had to have a prepaid calling card that you purchased from General Jackson's. and then we had to use pay phones. Show my age. So and then you call home either every week or every other week. And so if you didn't get nobody, then hey, you just didn't get nobody. And then, because there was a lot of sad people. I do recall seeing a lot of sad people because they couldn't get in contact with their people. So then we went, and so we were doing it. And so, we went over to the gym. And so, the drill song's like, y'all better stay, y'all better be highly motivated, dedicated, all that stuff that they say in basic. So, the drill sergeant calls to attention. And they're like, platoon, squad, we did some silly stuff. Attention. So they call us to attention or whatever, right? And so as a company, all of us together, we're like, that's, first platoon, second platoon, third platoon, fourth platoon. They call us all to attention. And so they're like, platoon, attention. And so then we all together, like super boisterous. We're all like, Echo Elite, known as the 4 Aces, trying to fight us, and you're gonna need braces. Alpha came up and we knocked them down. Don't talk about Bravo, cause they some clowns. Charlie and Delta need motivation. Foxtrot don't fit the conversation. So when we come through, be on your feet. Recognize the new company from across the street. Woo, woo, woo. Reload, woo, woo, woo. Reload, woo, woo, woo. Reload. What? Man. We went so crazy. Like, people that didn't have rhythm, they was on beat, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was just so crunk, you know what I'm saying? And then, like, they had this big drilling ceremony type, DNC, drilling ceremony type thing where they pick, certain people to do certain things, like whatever it was that they had them do for drilling ceremony. And then we had to do like obstacle courses. I was selected for the obstacle course portion. The first time I was with, what's her name? Almedina. I was with Almedina, and she slowed me down tremendously. She barely got out of basic training to be, I'm not trying to be funny either. Cause she was always ended up getting hurt or something like that. So she barely would have passed the PT portion. But then when I did it by myself, it was me and Coleman. When we did it together by ourselves, by ourselves, but together, it was so much better. So, as you guys know, if you watched my previous videos, I graduated 4 days after 9/11. And so post was on lock, nobody could come, and all flights were still grounded. They weren't letting people, they were hard, if you didn't have an ID, because at first, all the bases were open, but if you didn't have an ID, you weren't getting on or whatever. And then my mom she's in Louisiana, and so she couldn't come because, like I said, all flights were grounded. So my aunt, my cousin Munchie, Intazaki, Natizik, and her friend Crystal, they all drove up from Macon, Georgia, because my aunt was at Warner Robins Air Force Base. And so that's like 4 to 6 hours, something like that. But my aunt, she likes to drive. She'll just roll. Even she's like 60 something, she still just likes to drive. So, they came up or whatever. We couldn't go off post, which was customary. You went off post and you ate. But so she took me to the BX, and I think I got either Anthony's Pizza or Burger King. I think I got Anthony's Pizza, and I think my cousin they had got Burger King, and just having family there, for graduation, because a lot of people didn't have family. So having her there for graduation was amazing. And so then they left, and the next day, which was a Saturday, because I graduated on a Friday, that next day, which was Saturday, we all loaded up on a bus. So everybody that was with me, that was a 92 Alpha. So that was Norman, that was Smith L, that was Dejan, that was Campbell M, and it was some more people too. So we took so whoever from the rest of the companies were going to going to advanced individual training, AIT, at Fort Lee, Virginia. We all piled up in the long charter buses, and we were on our way to Fort Lee, Virginia. And so, yeah, this has been amazing. But like I said in the beginning of the video, the Lord blessed me with people that were for really dark times. He blessed me with certain people. So like in Louisiana, like after my mom and them left, he blessed me with Dante, and he was just cool, you know what I'm saying? Like, cause I guess he understood but didn't understand like what was happening. So he blessed me with him, and then he blessed me with Bailey. He blessed me with her while in basic, because after basic, I don't even know what happened to Bailey. I don't know her first name. I don't have any papers with anything about her, but she was cool to the mud. And then for AIT, and for AIT throughout my whole, even till now, he blessed me with Lawana. And like with Lawana, he blessed me with people that were that could understand, even if they didn't understand, you know what I'm saying? And so in a dark period, in a dark place, these people brought a bright white light for me, because like I didn't know it, but like I was depressed. I was sad all the time. And that's probably why I don't remember a lot of stuff, because it was just so bad. You know what I mean? Like, it was just because I had never been away from home before, even though like I was on my own for those 2 years, you know what I'm saying? Well, year and some change. I still have family, but now I'm in places where I don't have any family, and then the closest family to me is 6 hours away. And so, he was showing me that, hey, being able to go back, he was showing me, hey, I've sent people in place of, I have given you, he's giving you everything for what you need. You know what I'm saying? So he had given me everything that I needed in order to make it through those times, because those were some really dark times. You know what I'm saying? They were like, it was hard for your girl. You know what I'm saying? But, I made it through, and I'm able to, sit here and talk to you guys, because there, it was some places where I didn't know that there was stuff wrong. Because in the Black community, mental health is looked down upon. So you don't talk about being depressed. You don't talk about being sad. You know what I'm saying? If you sad, if you depressed, I didn't even know what depression was till like 2012. Okay. But if you sad and you depressed, you know what I'm saying, you better get you some Jesus. You're going to go to church, they're going to pray it away. You know what I'm saying? And it works. Praying it away works. But, you know what I'm saying, it's got to be your time. It's got to be your season. And it's got to be in his purpose and plan for you. You know what I'm saying? Because not every, because mental health is rampant. You know what I'm saying? People have mental health issues and they don't go get help because they don't know that they need help. You know what I'm saying? And so they don't know they need medication. They don't know they need counseling. So if that's you, and you if you feel like something is off, it probably is. But you're not gonna know if something is off. You can't even look at your own actions. You got to look about what people are telling you. You know what I'm saying? Because if people are telling you that you crazy and not a good crazy, then you probably crazy, and you might need to seek some counseling. You know what I'm saying? So with that, this has been Journey with Wendy. I'm Wendy. I'm very passionate. If you haven't noticed from this video, I'm very passionate from the past few moments of this video. I'm very passionate about mental health, and I believe that, if you need help, go get help. Don't worry about what people say, because they're going to talk about you anyway. You know what I'm saying? And so, don't, whatever. So new videos are posted every Tuesday and Thursday, sometimes on Wednesday, depending on what's going on. And with that, I'm